Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, was that any good? Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's like I don't know, back there. I'm watching you. I'm watching you. I didn't think you didn't yell too much. 2022 has been a kind of a rebuilding year, right? We've been through the COVID years of 2021. The Biden administration has officially said COVID is over. So I guess we can all, yeah, right. CDC, I don't know if we all believe that or not, but hey. But as a small business community, we've been through a lot. And that's why we picked the theme of succeeding in the new normal. See it all the time. You know, the new normal, people are used to working from home and don't want to go back to work. How many companies and small businesses are fighting that battle? Yeah, it's crazy. The new normal introduced us to virtual ways of doing business, virtual meetings, ways of leveraging technologies to meet our needs. Well, you know, it's kind of like going into an airport bathroom and you go like this to wash your hands and no water comes down. You're going like this and the guy next to you goes, turns on the handle. That technology, you know, we sometimes now we're thinking it's always like the bathrooms out here. Don't go like this to get the light come on because it is a switch. But we have a lot to do to get back to normalcy. And, I'm not sure I know what the new normalcy is. But the client success stories you're about to hear are about the challenges, but how these small businesses are succeeding in the new normal. Well, this event, by the way, before we get real started, this event is somewhat sad for me. I've been chapter chair this is my third year. It's normally a 2-year, but I agreed to stay on for the third year. And this is my last official duty as the chapter chair. And I'll introduce Andy Green at the end of the program, who will be cleaning up my mess up there. Thanks, Keith, for that. I appreciate that. But it's been an honor to serve this chapter, something that I'm very passionate about. I remember last week we had one in York, and the person said, "Oh, that's why you're happy. It's your last time, right?" No. When you're passionate about someone, it's really not something. It's not really work, is it? How many small businesses in here? You agree? Yeah. When you're passionate about something, it's not work. It's actually fun. So I'm going to look back on this very fondly, and hopefully I've set some things right, but Andy will fix the things I didn't get right. And I can tell you I did fail on some things. That's why, Kat Santiago is here to talk about diversity, because when I came in, there was single-digit percentage of mentors were diverse cultures, and we've got it up to 20-some%, but still not where we should be, in my opinion, at around the 35%. So succeeding in the new normal is our 9th annual small business success breakfast. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our faithful partners for this event. Jeff Myers, where's Jeff? Jeff's in the back. He's from Centric Bank, where he's the Executive Vice President and Chief Lending Officer since the inception of Centric Bank. Also, Mr. Keith Eldridge here in the front from RKL, where he's a partner in RKL Small Business Services Group and head of the firm's Real Estate Development and Construction Industry Group. And actually, he's my personal tax advisor for my business, actually. So we know each other from way back. I'd also like to thank our nonprofit partners, the SBA, SBDC, YCEA, the York County Economic Alliance, Harrisburg Area Chamber and Creedic, Perry County Chamber. I think the Harrisburg Creedic represented.
Melissa's right.
Oh, there she is, Melissa. And Perry County's here. Okay. Cumberland Valley, is Cumberland Valley here? Their Economic Development Corporation and Buy Local. So we appreciate it takes a village, right? You heard that before, it takes a village. And small, nonprofits, we got to start banding together and collaborating and partnering, because it's really about one thing, and it's about our clients. And if we're competing, and by the way, you do compete for money, I got it. But if you're competing, that's not good for our clients. We need to leverage all of our collective expertise to bring to bear to everyone. I'd also like to acknowledge Clara Weber of York College, Pennsylvania. She's helping us. She's a student. When do you graduate? Next fall, all right. Along with our new office administrator, Jessica Watson, she's back out there. And Terry Holland's wife, Marlene's out there, so thank her. And now to kick off the Susquehanna Scores Success in the New Normal event. So starting us off, here is Jeff Myers from Centric Bank.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
Thanks very much for having us. We really appreciate our relationship with SCORE. We worked with them for many, many years, and they've taken great care of our clients. They really give really good advice, so we really do appreciate our involvement with SCORE. I also want to make sure that I note that why Centric Bank is here. 95 cents of every dollar that we lend is commercial lending. So we've been heavily involved with businesses in the markets that we serve for many, many years. And that is the driving force of our financial institution. When we're all entrepreneurs, and being involved with a small financial institution that we took over that was under a formal enforcement with the federal government. When we brought our leadership team in, we took it from 68 million in assets to over 1 billion in assets currently. And we could not have done that without our relationships in central Pennsylvania and our marketplace down in the Philadelphia region. It's truly a working partnership with our clients, our servers, and our business providers that we've worked with over the years. During the pandemic, our team worked around the clock for months to assist our clients with a vital financial lifeline that we now know as PPP. If I don't hear PPP again in my career, but we've all come to know that this has been very important for the businesses in the marketplace. Through 2 rounds of funding, we did over $310 million in loans to businesses. And that was for 3,000 businesses. And the most important thing in that is it helped preserve 35,000 jobs. A lot of complaints, a lot of issues with the federal government rollout of the program, but in the end, it really did keep many businesses, give many businesses the opportunity to keep their employees and their doors open. So it was meaningful, there's no doubt about it. And during that time frame, we found a way to succeed in a challenging time. Yes, it was stressful, but we found a way, like many of the other businesses that are sitting in this room and in our marketplace. We all have seen the true entrepreneur shine during this time frame. It was remarkable to me to see the ideas, the thought process, the banding together of businesses to find ways to make things work. It was truly inspirational. We could not have done so with the commitment, without the commitment of our staff. All of our business partners, we have many as a financial institution that we work with, and really the strength and determination of our clients. So having been in business and been in banking for over 36 years, I often get asked, what's the one piece of advice you would give any business or individual that's thinking about starting a business? And my answer is always the same. And most of my staff can answer that question without me even having to do it. And it's to build a strong team around you. The staff that you can trust and rely upon, you work with them every day, but make sure you have a good CPA. Thanks, RTL, for being here today. A good banker, a good attorney, and a good insurance agent. You pay these folks every day. You pay the banker with your deposits and your interest rate. You pay the insurance agent with your policy premium. You pay your attorney with a retainer, and you pay your accountant the same way. You should feel free to pick up the phone and talk to any one of those individuals at any time. And if you're not comfortable doing that, and you don't think you have the relationship, change that member of your team. It's hugely important. They are your team. They are to work with you on a daily basis. We are consultative bankers. We don't like to be order takers. We like to work with our clients. There's things we talk to our clients about 2 and 3 years out. We just had a very, very successful business. They're considered medium sized now. They're over $25 million in annual revenue, but we helped them start from scratch. And they were just in the other day and they were talking about a project they want to do in 2 years. The current interest rate climate, we know will settle down at some point. The current economic scenarios will play themselves out. So this does not stop this individual from looking forward. You have to be looking forward. Some things work out in your plans, some things don't work out in your plans, but you continue to look forward. Every day you get up, you get out of bed, you go to work. It's a grind at times, but it's important to keep moving forward. When you stop moving forward, then you got a problem. So again, I want to thank everybody for allowing us to be here today. I'm very interested in hearing the success stories. I'd love to hear them. So John, I'll turn it back over to you, and thank you again for having us.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that. We appreciate Centric being here. And just a shout out to Corey Bishop, who's back there. You know, Corey, Centric is one of the best SBA loan banks that I've worked with. And Corey knows I've referred a lot of clients to Corey, some that were great clients to Corey, some that were not so great, because I knew that he would answer the question that I tried to answer to them. Because sometimes, I know this is hard to believe, but the entrepreneurial spirit gets in the way sometimes because people don't want to hear what we have to say. Oh my God. Is that something weird? I know I'm saying it, like, guys aren't used to that. You know, every year at the Success Breakfast, we feature SCORE clients who tell us their business story. This year, we begin with Michelle Bertini, owner of Cubby's Ice Cream Cafe. Her mentor was Jeff Wilson. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff to introduce her, but Jeff couldn't be here because he's ill, so I will introduce her. So imagine me shorter, more hair. Everyone who knows Jeff Wilson is getting this, right? When I first met Michelle Bertini, I found her to be bright, motivated, and focused. And by the way, Michelle, I noticed that when I was, met you this morning. A great skill set for opening a new business. Her business experience, however, had little to do with her dream. And by the way, that's an evacuation. Who's evacuating? And by the way, why would you have a ringtone like that? Don't scare the hell out of me. Didn't COVID teach you anything? Sorry, Michelle, I'm getting back. Michelle wanted to open an ice cream shop. Her vision was surprisingly well developed. She even had a name in mind and a location she was very excited about. What she did not have was any retail experience. But Michelle was a rock star. All right, rock star. She proved that she could learn to play any instruments. So we went to work. We spent a lot of time developing cost sheets, sales and profit projections, startup lists and costs, potential suppliers, ordering procedures, etc. Michelle identified her primary target demographics and what kind of tie-in merchandise to consider. Luckily, Michelle was already adept at spreadsheets. Were you really? You have to teach me, right? And attacked the project with grit and determination to succeed in the new normal. Michelle even had a location in mind. It did not work out, but I quickly discovered that nothing stops Michelle. She moved on in an entirely different direction and found a gem. Michelle's engaging personality, work ethic, and imagination have resulted in a hometown success story, and we've set up big expectations for your speech, apparently. I'm proud to introduce the founder, owner, and operator of Cubby's Ice Cream Cafe, Hummelstown's brightest new star, Michelle.
Hey, I'm gonna have Jeff introduce me.
That was so sweet. Thank you. Thank you for reading
Jeff story.
Sure.
Thank you, Jeff. We miss you and hope you're feeling better. Thank you to SCORE for putting on this breakfast and for allowing me to share my story. My name is Michelle Bertini. I'm the founder and owner of Cubby's Ice Cream Cafe. We're located in Hummelstown, just 7 minutes from Hershey Park, and we're open year round. We just celebrated our first birthday, so
All right.
brand new. So my background is all video production. And then when the pandemic hit, as many people know, we were spending 8 hours of back-to-back Zoom meetings. It became exhausting. I became more of a workaholic than I was prior, doing like the Zoom meetings and then doing all of my work after hours. So I started feeling if I am going to do this amount of work and this amount of passion into something, I want to do it for myself and for my family. So my pipe dream always was one day when I retire, I want to open an ice cream shop. So my family and friends all kind of were shocked when I took the moment of the pandemic to make that career jump. But luckily, one of my friends did suggest getting a SCORE mentor. So I thank Jeff for all of his guidance. I've been meeting with him for once a month for the past 2 years. And like he said, I was going cross-eyed in all of my spreadsheets. He put me to work, did a lot of homework. Jeff's a retired executive from Rite Aid and he was the founder of The Healthy Grocer. Meeting with him every month held me accountable for my progress. And I would oftentimes feel very overwhelmed. And he would say, well, how do you eat an elephant? And I would say 1 bite at a time. And I would feel sometimes inadequate, like, hey, I'm more of a creative person, be like really nervous about the numbers. And like Jeff said earlier about the team, Jeff Wolfson also reminded me that I created a great team of support with my accountant, insurance and everything. So rely on your team. You can't do anything by yourself. So thank you again, Jeff, for all of your time, your support, your encouragement, and for helping me spend months and months working on my business plan and all my spreadsheets. Like he said, I initially put my offer on a building in my neighborhood that I could walk to, and it was part of my neighborhood. But thankfully, that did not work out. So my second location, which like he said was totally different, in Hummelstown, it checked all my boxes of what I was looking for. It was in a walkable neighborhood. My backyard's a school, an extremely supportive small town community, thankfully, and a tourist attraction just minutes away. It did take me 6 months to find that new location, which day to day, that felt like forever, considering things that I'm so glad drove by now that I didn't jump on a different place. If anyone remembers PJ Scoops, it was a soft serve ice cream walk-up window. She retired, so she had a walk-up window outside, and then she had a country craft store inside. So that's the property that I purchased. I secured my business loan and got the property in May 2021. And then we immediately tackled 3 months of renovations because the building is close to 100 years old. There was a lot that we had to work on. And that timing was interesting because it was right when all the lumber costs went skyrocketed through the roof. So that was a fun challenge for us. But in the meantime, during all the construction, I was getting my food safety certification, purchasing all my equipment and inventory. And then I joined the North American Ice Cream Association so that I could get my industry experience. They have a private Facebook group, which was really valuable to me just to hear from other ice cream retailers. I did a virtual ConeCon Expo and then also did Scoop School online classes, which is a thing. So learned all about ice cream every day. So finally opened my doors on August 19th, 2021. Like I said, just 1 year, a year ago. And also that date was significant because it was exactly 1 year since I left my career in video production. So it was a full year that I opened my doors with one employee, myself. So I was the one scooping and doing everything. And thankfully, like I said, the community was super supportive. They published a like full page newspaper article on me in the Sun. So what I wanted to do was have a soft open, but luckily I had a line out the door. So that was a wonderful, wonderful first day and first few weeks and help. I currently have 17 part-time employees. 6 of them are in college, so they're only helping while they're on break, but that times out well. We are open currently Tuesday through Sunday, 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I want to give a shout out to my MVP. I have an assistant manager. Her name is Deborah, and she was retiring the same week that I was opening, but she didn't want to stop working. So I brought her on as my part-time assistant manager, and she's incredible. I also couldn't do what I do without my ice cream supplier. So the Beck family in York, Pennsylvania, they've been making ice cream since 1932, and that's the super premium, highly addictive ice cream that I sell. It's amazing. We do free samples. So they're one of the most popular ice cream flavors is couch potato, which is a vanilla base, chocolate covered pretzels, peanut butter fudge. And I realized that I'm looking at me, I should have brought some ice cream. I was gonna start with that. But my personal favorites are ginger snap and maple cream cookies. They've been incredible. I could shoot them a text and say, hey, do you have a red velvet ice cream? And they're like, no, but we'll work on that for you. And they come twice a week and deliver my ice cream for me. So they're wonderful. It's just a father, a daughter, and 2 employees that make it all. Another partner of mine is Sydney Roasting Company, which Jeff Wilson is a mentor for them as well, and he introduced us. And they're based in Lebanon, so we do coffee and ice cream. We like to mix them together and do like coffee floats, cold brew or hot coffee. Like I said, it's not just me. I'm extremely grateful for all of my team and of my part-time staff, my family, friends, everyone. And I have not missed my career in video production. I just have missed some of my coworkers, but thankfully with all of the events, promotions, social posts, I get to still be creative. And we've had a lot of success with our following on Facebook, even spending like $100 to boost a post. We see a lot of people coming in just because they saw, oh my gosh, I saw the new flavor. Pumpkin pie is out right now. So they'd come in just for that. So I definitely had a lot of success recently with Facebook boosting posts. And I realize I'm just 1 year in, which is funny to talk about opening a business during a pandemic. So I appreciate any guidance and advice from everyone because I'm new to this. I have no idea how to answer the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm still defining what success means to me. I have a 3.5-year-old daughter, so I do like to work really hard and show her that example. And maybe one day if she wants to scoop some ice cream for me, that would be great, but who knows, she might be sick of the place by then. The community that we're building is super rewarding to me, and kindness is very rewarding to me. I train all my employees to act more like a bartender than fast food. We're not just scooping ice cream. We're giving everyone a really enjoyable experience with the free samples, asking them how their day is. I want everyone to feel welcome when they come into the doors. It feels like a home. So thank you everyone for your time, and I'll leave you with our tagline at Cubby's Ice Cream Cafe, and it is hold on to happiness.
Wow, thank you, Michelle. By the way, there is a score hat for you in the back. So we're not a high cost thing. We don't have all these nice things to give people, but thanks for speaking. First birthday, 17 part-time employees. Wow, isn't that crazy? And can you imagine and think about this, starting a business during the pandemic? I have a client also that did that. It just boggles my mind, especially a retail establishment. So that's great. And I like some of the messages I got from you. Rely on your team. I think that's very, very important. I also like the family atmosphere, and your family had to be supportive. A lot of times when we meet with our clients, some of the first things are, do you have a support network? That kind of stuff. Associations, you joined an association. It's interesting. I just had the new entrepreneur's been in business for 5 years, kinda, because he hasn't made any money, and he's an audio engineer, and he started up this voiceover talent company. And we always talk at mentors, go, what is the associations affiliated with your business? And they can help you also. He kind of talks about what Jeff says, get that team around you. It's very important to get that team around you, and that's really important, and you hit home for that. And before I introduce our next speaker, I do want to, in the programs, we are looking for SCORE mentors. We're always looking for SCORE mentors. As I mentioned earlier, we're looking for more diverse culture mentors, but we are open to everyone. We need mentors. So if you have an expertise, and Michelle, after your 4 years, maybe we can get you into it and be a mentor, because it's all a great experience that you can pass on. And I'm telling you, I get more out of it, and I think all mentors would say that we get more out of it than our clients do. So would you agree, Russ? All right. Now we'd like to kind of introduce you to our new Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee team chair to provide an update on the chapter's DEI initiatives, and that's Catherine Santiago. Kat?
Good morning, Harrisburg.
Good morning.
Good morning. I like Harrisburg. I'm Catherine. I'm a SCORE mentor. I'm excited to have taken the opportunity in the leadership role to head the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. We're working on a more hands-on approach, not just saying it, but being it. So when I was up here, I gave a speech last week and I got super nervous, and I kind of thought over, like, what does it mean to me? So just kind of some things about diversity. I come from an immigrant background, Mexican, Cuban, and German, right? That's a completely crazy mix. Parents came here in their 20s, didn't know America. Mom don't speak English, father don't speak English, but they were entrepreneurs, and they were successful entrepreneurs. And to this day, they don't speak, my father does not speak English, Spanish only. And I thought to myself, how is this role important to me? Like, what does it mean to me to be in a role like this? I see my dad every day start with a cleaning business, work his way up to a trucking company for 25 trucks. Very successful, 25 years in business in New York City, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And he's retired for the last 20 years. And I learned so much hands-on from that, more than any school could teach me. And so this is important for me because I'm a woman, I'm a business owner, nonprofit and for-profit. And to be up here and to say to myself, what is my commitment? My commitment is to see the same journey that I went to be smoother for someone else, to see the bumps in the roads that my father had not be the bumps in the roads that someone else has. And the same for me. I'm in the nonprofit world right now. It was extremely challenging. It was not something that I planned out to be. My story is very personal, and that's why the nonprofit is very personal, and that's why the nonprofit meant everything to me. So like, I see my mission as like women-owned businesses, small-owned businesses, minority businesses, all them communities that have so many challenges. And I don't know how I would approach it directly, but I know that we all have a skill set to bring to the table, and their success is our success. Because not only are we business to consumer, but we're also business to business, because a business buys from another business. So, when I thought about it, I kind of, didn't want to read off a speech, and I felt like my motive behind it was, I want to help people grow. I mentor a lot of women already, and I love it. I'm passionate about it. So if you have any clients that are Spanish speaking, and they don't have to be Spanish speaking, if they're minorities, if they just want a woman to talk to, if they have a question, feel free to reach out to us. That's what we're about. I come from a lot of experience from the New York City area, from Jersey, from Philly. I'm a big city girl. I'm pretty new out here, but I'm learning. And when you become a business owner, you're constantly learning. And the big thing about businesses right now is they have a social component to them. I mean, we see social media as what it is, right? There's such a social component to it. If you can bring a story to any business, you will thrive, and that's what social media is doing for a lot of businesses right now. So I want to help you tell your story, and I want you to help you tell your story to the people you want to reach. And women, we're thriving. A lot of women are opening businesses. I'm a mom, 6 boys, and I still do this every day. And yeah, it's challenging, right? And I know those challenges. I know them firsthand. I'm a single mom, right? You don't gotta feel sorry for me because I'm a single mom that gets up every morning with 6 sons, one that has a disability that I rock out for every day. So I want them to look at me and say, Mom, you're doing exactly what my grandfather did. My father didn't make excuses. He didn't come to this country and say, oh, I don't speak English, I can't do this. He did it. He did it. And his success story is like, he tells me constantly, there's no barriers. The only barriers are you. And I've seen that in him. So coming forward, we're developing this team and to help businesses. So I want to see economic growth, economic development. And part of that is building a strong team. If you know anybody that has skill sets that would help us, feel free to reach out to me or Andy or John. If you need me, like I said, to mentor, if you need, my advice, I know women are comfortable with women, so feel free to reach out. But your success is my success and vice versa. I don't believe in competition. I believe we can all make each other grow, and that's how we become successful. So I didn't come up here, I didn't read off my speech, and I was really nervous like I always am, but this is personal to me. So anything I do with my heart involved, I know it works. So, thank you for your time. And I look forward to, getting to know you guys. And I've been in the Harrisburg office a lot lately with a lot of the women up here. So I've been having the opportunity to really, shine. And maybe I can be of use somewhere. So thank you.
Thanks, Kat, I appreciate it. And, no excuses, boy, it seems like those 2 words aren't used a lot anymore today. We're so divisive in this country, and there's the victim mentality we have, and then you have Kat that says, don't feel sorry for me. Jesus Christ, these 6 kids, a single mom, holy cow, and doing all that she's doing. And and for you guys, you can tell I'm a short, fat, white, balding Italian. Okay. But it reminds me that, I remember hearing stories about my grandfather coming over from Italy and didn't know language. So even us old fat white guys need to learn and think about, we may not have that anymore because we've been, for 3 generations now, but there are people that are just doing that like our grandparents did or our great grandparents did, that are fighting that battle, whether it's from Africa or Mexico or Venezuela or whatever, or Jersey. So I appreciate that, and you can see that we are dedicating ourselves to really get more diverse mentors. So again, another push for mentors. All right. Now I'd like to introduce our next sponsor, Mr. Keith Eldridge from RKL. Keith and I met, we were trying to think about when it was, over 20 years ago. We were volunteering together at Leadership York, and we were on the board, and he was a treasurer. And if people don't think that volunteerism doesn't help your business, they're wrong. They're wrong. Because guess what, Keith, I'm a client of Keith's now, from my personal life tax advisor. And then when I started my business in 2019, was a logical place to go. Part of my team is Keith Eldridge. So I can attest for their services. So I'd like to introduce my tax advisor, but more importantly, my friend and part of my team, Keith Eldridge.
All right, good morning, everybody. And if anybody gets a problem about Jersey, come talk to me. I was born and raised in South Jersey, just outside of Philly. So I know what's going on there. And I get the grief all the time as well. So yeah, we're proud to be a sponsor here from RKL. You might see our tagline says, what's next level for you? And I kind of want to talk about a little bit how that started out. And I'm going to talk about my experience with that. Some of you know I do serve on the board of the Associated Builders and Contractors Keystone chapter. And we were all sitting around in a meeting in March for our annual board meeting. Phones start blowing up. All these contractors now have 24 hours to start shutting down their contract sites. Multi-locations across multi-states, shutting them down. Getting their people home safe, getting their equipment safe, and securing their job sites. We want to talk about a shocker across us and everybody. And that's when it realized to us that we're more than bean counters, because we started getting calls. What do I do now? How do I do things now? What do I do with my employees? What does this mean for my job? Hours on the phone, Zoom calls, and I can't say more about, you're right, Jeff, about having partners. Zoom calls with bankers, insurance brokers, attorneys, owners. How do we survive? How do we pass through this pandemic? And then next thing you know, live on. My volunteership with Associated Builders and Contractors helped a lot of my clients figure that out. This is a national organization, the local chapter. We dealt with issues across everything. You know, every state had different rules. Every contractor had different rules depending on whether you're working medical, school, or off-site. We had to learn all those things and to all of a sudden start helping our clients. How do you start working in this environment? As you might know, RKL has gotten to be a very large firm. We got somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 employees across multiple states as well. And when we started talking, we found out my experience was not untypical like the rest of the partners. Phone calls about construction, phone calls about manufacturing, service businesses. How do we stay involved? The PPP loan program spent hours, and I mean literally hours, on the phone, trying to get documentation, on the phone with banks on how they have to pull things together. And every bank had their rules because they were trying to learn what the feds were trying to say to them, and everybody was trying to adapt. So we learned that we're no longer as what they refer to us as bean counters. We're more than that. And our job is to service everybody at every levels, no matter what your interests are. I deal with a lot of startup companies. I help a lot of companies survive and continue to survive and move to whatever level they consider next. I've helped sell a lot of businesses. And that's our job. Our job is to help service you all throughout your life cycle, whatever your level is and whatever next level is. One of the success stories you see in your book is Kinsley Construction. I will tell you, I worked for them for 25 years as their external accountant. I know some of you know that. And when I started with them, they were doing about $50 million a year in sales. They're multi-hundreds of millions of dollars in sales now. And I will tell you, Bob Kinsley himself taught me a lot about what it meant to be a business person and what it meant to serve people and to serve a community. I take that with me. I've learned from that. I appreciate everything he's taught me. I've had the chance of running into people like John and multi other people. And every time I've learned something new, I realize there's more to life than just accounting the beans. It's somebody's livelihood. It's somebody's children that have to be able to go to school. It is employees, and that's what's important. How do we make you successful for whatever level you want to be? Our firm has learned to build the teams as well as external teams of bringing people together to servicing clients so they can be successful. And that's where we're heading as a firm. That's what we believe. We believe in serving our communities. So we want to thank SCORE for allowing us to be a sponsor and realize that we agree that this is the way to be, and you need to be a partner with those that are starting up as well as those that want to succeed to the next level. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Keith. And in some cases, your partners get you to retirement. Thank you. Those of you that were in New York, Todd Bush does the Chamber Foundation grant that we administer for the York Chamber Foundation. And he's my financial advisor. So Keith and Todd and I have met several times. And I remember since I was 55 going, can I retire yet? Can I retire yet? Nope, 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 nope. First of the year that I was 61, they called and said, can we meet? Yeah, sure. Come on over to the house. Went over to the house and they go, now's the time. And then the angels came out. And now for our second client success story. Suzanne Harrison will introduce you to her client, Sarah Palmer, founder and CEO of Sarah Palmer Speaks. Suzanne. What?
Are we off script?
Are we off script?
I think so.
What did it say next?
Andy
Andy?
and Maria.
What does it
I
say?
mean, I don't
We have
mind,
two
but
programs?
Oh my God. So we had a mix up. Guess what? We're gonna follow this one. We're gonna do Suzanne and Sarah. How's that? Hey, if the pandemic hasn't taught us anything, it's about how to adapt, right? And when you have the microphone, you can say whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. Jamal, you want to come up here and say whatever?
I'm not Jamal.
Oh, where's Jamal? Oh, sorry, Jamal. I looked at Jamal. Hey, Jamal.
Oh, my goodness. So I'm not sure how that happened, but good morning, everyone. I've been a SCORE mentor for 5 years this year, and I have met many exciting and industrious clients. One of my favorite clients is Sarah Palmer from Sarah Palmer Speaks. Sarah came to me with her speaking company and was looking to fill in the gaps that she was missing in running her own business. I found her to be incredibly resilient and motivated and just open to all kinds of ideas on all kinds of areas of her business. I will let her tell her story, but to let you know, she introduces herself as a recovering addict, scrappy survivor through childhood abuse, assault, and an alcoholic marriage, and her own demons. She dedicates her life and career to giving moms and caregivers permission to choose their own path, no matter the odds. Sarah?
Thanks for going now.
So always a pleasure to jump in whenever one was unexpected to jump in. Thank you, Suzanne, so much for that introduction. That was so kind. Really appreciate it. Thank you to all the sponsors for providing the event and for SCORE for really doing what I hope we get to continue doing for a very long time, which is helping folks like me out so that eventually I get to be sitting there helping other folks out. The comedian Jim Gaffigan has a lot of kids, and somebody asked him once, what was it like right after his 4th child was born? And he said, imagine you're drowning and someone hands you a baby. And honestly, I have not found a better way to describe being a parent of bonus and bio children and being a brand new business owner at the same time. It really covers it quite nicely. My business is on self-care. I personally learned what real self-care was in the 12-step recovery rooms. Before that, self-care is kind of what we hear around a lot, which is mani-pedis and $150 yoga pants and juice cleanses. And all of them are delightful and they do make you feel good, but they're not self-care. And I realized looking around that the self-care industry really aims at a very narrow slice of moms and caregivers. And I didn't happen to fall into that slice, and hardly anybody else I knew fell into that slice. So I decided to build a business that was there to serve moms and caregivers and employers to help support where they are with real solutions. Here's an example. How many of you have ever heard, if you're feeling stressed, you should go take a walk? Right? Pretty common, yeah. That is a great piece of advice. Harder to do if you're a single mom with 3 kids. Your 2 options then are to take them with you. And you're not even out the door and that one's naked now for some reason. It's been 2 minutes. What happened? The other option is to go on your own, 0 out of 5, do not recommend.
and hope that the apartment is still standing when you come back. So how does that mom get the self-care that they need? And that's where I started. So I launched Sarah Palmer Speaks with that message in September of 2019. I predated COVID, look at me, good job me. And pretty quickly, actually, I was partnering with some local businesses. I was speaking to national organizations, specifically about self-care. How do we build a stronger foundation so we can handle the day-to-day, so that we can actually deal with the problems when they come? For moms and caregivers, that was great. For employers, it was really helpful to be able to share with them that when we improve everybody's bottom line, we improve everybody's bottom line. And I was doing pretty well. Building the bicycle while I was riding it. I'm not a jet airplane. I'm not a train, just bicycle. Had my training wheels on. We were doing good. And then March of 2020, COVID. When your business is speaking and you're used to being in front of people and now there's nobody there. And everybody's shutting down and staying close, just like Keith talked about, just like Michelle talked about. It was, everybody was there. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. So we were being told in a personal time, this was a great quiet time. This was a great time to learn a new language. This was a great time to get comfortable with sourdough and succulent plants. Like, okay. But the business folks that I was listening to had great ideas. They were like, listen, this is the time to look at your business process, start automating what you can, see if you can, outsource some things. This is a great time to really be pushing things out to your social media platforms. You should really be solidifying your legal and your financial obligations, right? You got everything in order. You should start a podcast. And all of those sounded great. They all would definitely help my business. So I wrote them down on my business to-do list. The problem is that I have CPTSD and anxiety explanations. So I didn't know that I had those things for a long time. I thought everybody immediately found the emergency exits in a room when they walked in. They're there. If I move you all out of the way, they're there. Window is a possibility. I thought that everybody worked super hyper focused for like a day and then couldn't do anything for the next couple days except just stare at the to-do list and not check anything off unless the thing you check off is stare at the to-do list. So all of those great ideas on the to-do list, not going anywhere. And then just to bring the Jim Gaffigan line back, in July, I got pregnant. Very planned for, very wanted, yay, but also a complicating wrinkle in the middle of a floundering new business with no money coming in and a lot of anxiety going out. I was able to recognize that a lot of business folks had said, if you can't improve what you are offering, now is a great time to do some good market research. So I did. I reached out to 24 moms and compensated them for giving me information about what were the obstacles that they were facing before and now, what are they facing now? Again, not excuses, just what are we dealing with and what are the workarounds for that? And what are we maybe not hearing enough of in the space that I can fill? So I was able to improve the courses that I offered, the self-care slaycation, because honestly, we're not going anywhere. So it's a slaycation. We're going to fix things where we are. And I was able to really roll that back out when things started to open up. I also had the opportunity to recognize that my to-do list was not going to get any shorter by myself. And like we've already heard, we don't do any of this by ourselves. So like a good young Gen X, old millennial, I Googled business mentors near me and SCORE came up. So I applied for a mentor and I didn't hear back for a little while, but then I reached out. I started attending the roundtables. Andy and I are good friends now because he was an amazing facilitator of those. I learned so much. I asked again, can I get a mentor? And if I'm being picky, can I get a woman mentor who kind of knows what's going on? And not surprisingly at all, they matched me up with Suzanne. Suzanne and I have met off and on since then. Suzanne does for me what I do for women and caregivers. And that is she meets me where I am. She doesn't pretend that I should already know things. She brings amazingly specialized information that I wouldn't know about otherwise. Was I the only one who didn't know about business model canvas? Anybody? That is phenomenal. If you don't know, I'm gonna put you on the spot, talk to her about that after. They are amazing. It's like a better business plan. I base everything on my business now off of that. And she celebrates every success, even when the voice in my head tells me it's not even a big deal. Everybody in this room is already doing it. What's the point? She's there to give me that support so that I can go, okay, what's my next step? Okay, what's my next step? I love public speaking. You could give me a fishbowl of suggestions and pick one out and say, talk for 45 minutes, and I got you. Ask me to build a spreadsheet or make profit predictions, and I am frozen because what if I'm wrong? Well, then you fix that. No, that's not, no, it's wrong. So having somebody that I can meet with, we often meet every 2 weeks. There's times we've met every week. And she's always there, and she goes where I am, and we go together. So I'm not drowning anymore. I still have the baby. I have a couple other kids too. They're swimming off on their own. Suzanne gave me floaties. It's my job to stay above the surface, but it's a lot easier now. And I like that all of us here are swimming in the pool with me too. And I am so glad that we get to do this, and I hope that we continue doing this in the future, because self-care is for everybody. And I'm glad that I get to be a part of that. Thank you.
Wow. You mean a mani-pedi is not self-care? Sarah brought up things like, the personalization of service. And I like to think that's what mentors do, is each individual client is we may have to make it personal. And what's your name? Joseph. Okay, now so I can put my new engine wall. Okay, good. I was going to ask you to move back so I could at least look at you. But also the mental aspect of the pandemic that, Sarah kind of reminded me of. It's something I don't think we're good at in this country or anywhere. We don't understand that. It's easy to make jokes, right, about people that have anxiety. I know us old fat white guys always say, oh, I remember having anxiety. Yeah, but it's different today. Social media and the stuff that's coming at us today is so much different. And then the new normal is really getting a mentor on your team. Of course, I never consider myself a floaty. I'm a pair of floaties. Okay, I know I'm fat. I go to Kentucky's ice cream all the time. Now I have the honor of introducing our keynote speaker. This is in your program, right? We're on the program. We just flipped Sarah and Mr. Douglas Fisher. Mr. Fisher is the interim chair, Department of Business at Central Penn College, or I guess you're kind of retired at that, right? In that role, he oversaw the Business Accounting and Graduate Studies program, and as a business professor, which he is now, and I also am a business professor, so he's a near and dear to my heart. I resemble that remark. He also teaches a wide variety of business courses. Prior to becoming a full-time faculty member at Central Penn, though, he was the president of 4 companies during a successful 35-year business career. Doug, thank you for your time to address our attendees, and talking about we don't deposit excuses. Mr. Doug Fisher.
I remember very clearly, actually, not too many years ago, sitting at my desk here at Central Penn College, and was reading about what was happening in Italy. In Italy, they were converting their colleges from on-ground in-classroom instruction to online instruction. And I thought, wow, that's interesting, because we do that all the time. As a matter of fact, we win awards for it here, and it's actually probably what we're best at. So I thought, this is what's going to happen to us. Not only does their fashion come over here next after they establish what's fashionable in Milan, with COVID, it just sort of moved across the ocean. And all of a sudden here in the United States, we had to do the same thing. And I thought, this is going to be a piece of cake, because in our department here, we typically used our online class as the basis for our on-ground class. So the work was already done. And I thought, in a matter of minutes, we could flip a switch and we could be ready for COVID in our department. And I let our distinguished faculty know that this was in all likelihood coming. And we did flip that switch, and COVID here was pretty much a piece of cake. It was a success story in preparedness and everybody having a positive attitude about it. Now, at the same time that everything went very, very smoothly here at Central Penn, I was coaching a young CEO who owned and or operated 3 different businesses in the worst possible industry you could be established in during COVID, entertainment. Now, Dan was as equally passionate about entertainment as Michelle is about the love and happiness she puts into an ice cream cone. So everything was there in terms of that love and that desire that you need in a person. But Dan was facing the real possibility of shutting his business down for a significant period of time, possibly no profit, laying off his family of employees, and they were a family. And he was potentially looking at wasting a tremendous amount of perishable food. And Dan had a lot to lose. He had a lot on the line. When I had met this young man years before, one of the initial changes we made in his business was establishing a cash reserve. He was a very, very young man that had bought a business from his family because that was his dream. He'd already failed a couple times. And at that time, he had virtually no cash in the bank to speak of, none. So he ordered his bookkeeper to start saving a percentage of his profits right off the top until that cash reserve would not only establish, but would run his business for at least 6 months. And this new habit and this new stash of cash started to feel really good to him. He started to see why this is so beneficial, and it allowed him to sleep better at night, and he really enjoyed it. Kind of like what happens to people when they establish a fitness routine. He just felt better about everything. So as he learned to run his business rather than having it run him, the next thing he did was he actually established higher levels of profit and higher levels of savings, and he built up a very, very healthy reserve. Simultaneously, Dan and I were meeting in coffee shops, which I'm sure a lot of you do with your mentors on a regular basis. Coffee shops are where I go. So we met in coffee shops regularly, and we talked about all the different concepts of business that I had experienced through all the years that I had been running businesses. And you learn a lot from all of that, as you've heard today from our testimonials. Dan learned really quickly, and I remember him saying, "Boy, this decision system you have," and you run a business long enough, you build systems for doing the things you do. And I built a system for making business decisions because I made better business decisions with this system than I made them otherwise. So he said, "I just can't believe how much more profitable I am now that I've learned to make rational, unbiased, evidence-based, framed and filtered business decisions." And that brings me to, after 35 years, I feel so fortunate. My businesses have all flourished, and we've had really good results at every stop. But I've seen a lot of businesses fail. And I think about what causes business failure. And in my 40 years of running businesses in a quarter century, coaching CEOs, I've discovered that there's really 2 primary reasons businesses don't make it, and a number don't. The first one is insufficient cash reserve. That's the first and foremost reason I see people fail in business. Not enough cash in the bank for a rainy day. Number 2, poor business decision making. So I remember Dan explaining that he felt really, really bittersweet because he felt very sad for all the people that were losing their lives and losing their loved ones at the beginning of COVID. It was very traumatic. And he said, but he also had a tremendous inner peace. He felt really, really good about the fact that he would manage financially with his cash reserve. He even had earmuffs, PPP, and his employees could receive unemployment compensation. And he also had an opportunity to do a number of renovations to his facilities. And the big thing for him was he finally had a chance to go do some focused fly fishing. He had been dreaming of fly fishing, and those entrepreneurs in here will tell you it's hard to find time for fly fishing or anything else you really enjoy when you're trying to start up a business, because it eats your time. But Dan and his business and his employees were going to be okay, because when he went to the bank, he deposited money, not excuses. He had the money needed to renovate, to pay his obligations, to plan for a super successful reopening, and take a nice drive to Arkansas with his fiance to fly fish. Now, stepping back to when the last recession took place, that would have been 07, 08, right? The chief of the Ritz Hotels said to his staff of leaders, I don't care how many people stay in nice hotels. I just want to make doggone sure that they stay in ours. He couldn't control how many people were going to do it, but he wanted to make sure that the ones that did were in his ice cream shop, right? That's what he wanted. And Dan felt the same way. He adopted that same attitude. So as a business owner prepared for the worst, Dan adopted the same attitude. He was prepared for COVID, so he spent his time thinking, not worrying, thinking. He got really metacognitive. Are you familiar with the word metacognition? It's my favorite word in the dictionary. I have one tattoo right here, and it says metacognition. It's 2 layers down, but it's in there, believe me. I can't believe I don't touch it.
Don't show it.
Don't worry. Don't worry. I don't ever start taking gloves off. Old bald fat guys know that.
My wife reminds me.
So Dan got metacognitive. Metacognition means you don't just think. You think about your thinking. It's different. It's deeper. It's a powerful weapon. He started thinking about how will people feel? How will they feel inside of them when this government mandated isolation is over? They'll crave entertainment. They'll want to go out in a safe environment. They'll want to be with their friends. Most importantly, they will want to eat food they did not cook, right? Anything they did not cook. We forget. So while everyone else was panicking about their finances, Dan had his marketing team booking bands and other experiences for the first available weeks when the quarantine would be lifted. He went above and beyond every safety regulation. He rented a huge tent and put it over his outdoor area, allowing him to spread groups of people further apart, but have live entertainment no matter the weather. He continued his marketing when his competition killed theirs. He did the exact opposite of what the market was doing. He also wondered how he could capitalize on this unprecedented experience. So as competing businesses went under, and in the entertainment industry, many did, he hired their best people and he strengthened his team. We talked a lot about team today. He added 3D golf simulation and a fun exercise. It's physical, it's fun, but you can do it alone. So it's very safe. He revamped his menu. He changed his food and drink choices, and he upped the quality. He reassessed all his vendor relationships. How many of you have heard the term supply chain issues lately when you try to buy something? Not with Dan. He took care of the supply chain issues while COVID was going on, so there weren't any afterward. Apple, that's what, you imagine a lot of you probably have Apple products in front of you right now. That's why they make their products, all of their products, in different countries on different continents. So if there's a supply chain issue in one place, they can still make their products in 2 other places. At least 3 locations for every product. So Dan targeted his marketing toward that magical day when people could go out again, and everything we could possibly think of, everything that we could think of to improve his business, we did. And when the dust settled and Dan and his team went back to work, their batteries were recharged. Business spiked and profits grew, and even more money could be put away. And his cash reserve was replenished in a hurry. His team was top flight. They were trained and they were ready to go. Customers were really, really excited to get back to having fun. And people loved the live music, the fire pits, the good food, the cold drinks, happy people. It was really amazing. And he was easily able to establish more of a cash reserve for a rainy day. Speaking of Apple, while we're on that subject, would anybody care to guess what Apple's cash reserve was as of August? How much money do you think they had in the bank for a rainy day in August? Who said 2 billion? Spot on. Great call. Great call, Sarah Palmer. Sarah Palmer Space. 2 million. Right on the button. They had sorry, you just beef, thank you. $2 billion in the bank for a rainy day as of August. Now, what does that mean? How do you put that in perspective? That's 7% of the cash reserve of the entire S&P 500. Apple had in the bank in August. Why would they do this? Because they deposit cash, not excuses, because they are wise. This is easily solved if you're running your business well. Execute fanatical discipline and save. But what about the second problem with business failures? What about this decision-making thing? That's actually where your bread really gets buttered, because even the decision to save money is a decision, is it not? Is that not what you do all day? What do business leaders do? They make decisions all day. It's what you do. Think about it. Cornell suggests that the average executive makes 20 to 30,000 decisions per day. It's what we do. So shouldn't making wise, profitable decisions be our number one priority if it's what we do the most? But do we really get metacognitive about how we make our decisions all day, every day? Here's something you can take it to the bank. You make your decisions and your decisions make you. It's true. It's worth writing down. You master the art of decision making. It should be on the to-do list. I wish I had more time to do a deep dive on it. That actually happens next month at a different conference in Lebanon, where I'll do an hour on it. And that's an hour-long talk, just how to make great business decisions, how to make profitable business decisions. This is 15 minutes, so we won't be going into all of that now, but let's take a brief look at the process of making a wise business decision. First, you have to know what the decision is, the real decision, what you're really trying to make a decision about. What is the root cause of this decision? You might have to say why 15 times like a 2-year-old to actually get to why you have to make this decision. Is it an opportunity or is it an issue? A lot of perceived issues are actually opportunities to resolve something that's needed resolved for some time. You need to restate your decision and restate your decision and restate your decision as many times as you must, and you must get metacognitive about it. You need to think about, how am I thinking about this decision? Not what am I thinking about it, how am I thinking about it? How am I analyzing it? How am I digesting it? How am I getting to the root and the soul of this decision I must make? And when you really know what it is you need to make a decision about, write it down, put it in your journal. And then we have to frame that decision. How do you frame a decision? Well, you have to know what your frames are, first and foremost. For me, they came through the org chart, right? So I was always the president of the company, so it seems, and I had, let's say, 5 reports, right? But just hypothetically, functions of the company: operations, business development, finance, human resources, technology, maybe one unspecified other. So for me, my filters were my functions. They were the areas of the company. So that's how I teach framing. It doesn't have to be that. But well, recently I actually worked with a female CEO, and her office conveniently had a large number of windows. So I literally took her by the arm and we walked to the first window. And I said, now look at that window and think about that frame. And I want you to only consider this decision from the standpoint of human resources. Only, no other variables. Just how does it impact human resources? How does the human resources impact this decision? What would be the impact to the people and the talent and everything else that comes with human resources? And we just got really down and dirty about human resources and this decision. And then we walked to the next window and we looked out at it and said, operations. Now we're down into everything that happens from the time the customer says, I'll take it, to the time the relationship ends. That's basically operations, right? Now, how is that going to be impacted by this decision? Or how is that decision going to impact operations? And we made our way window by window until we got to her 5 frames. And she said, wow, I can't believe how much I learned from thinking about this decision with regards to my frames. So we need to frame a decision. Then and only then do we start thinking about what our alternatives are. You can do that too fast. Our natural inclination, the minute we have a decision to make, is to say, what are my choices? And I'll make them. And that's what we do. We make the decision really fast. Typically, if you want a book to read that'll really help you with that, read Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, Daniel Kahneman. It's fabulous, fabulous book. Maybe even the audio book because it's deep. It's really deep. So we have to think about our alternatives. A gentleman recently contacted me and said, Doug, what car should I buy? Like, I don't know why anybody would ask me what car to buy. I'm not a car guy, but I was asked, right? So I said, well, what's the deal? What are you after? And, well, I don't know whether to buy a new car or a used car, because used cars right now apparently are as expensive as new cars. So everybody's confused about automobiles. And I said, did you consider buying no car? And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, number one, you do have one, right? Oh yeah, I've got a car, but it's time for a new one. I said, did you consider buying no other car? Sometimes the best deals you make, business people, are the deals you don't make, right? Oh, nothing could be more true. So in the end, he said, you know, if my car dies, I'll take an Uber. It's just as easy. He said, I'm not going to buy a car. But he wasn't even considering that alternative. So you need to get maybe with some advisors, your team we talked about earlier. If we have this team of advisors, ask them. But consider all your alternatives. And then it's the hard part. Then we get to the really hard part. We have to check our biases. And this is so hard. We all have biases. We have them. If you think you don't, sorry, you do. We all have biases. This is how we typically make our decisions. That's why they go so wrong, because it's not where you want to make decisions. You want to check all your biases at the door when you're making a decision, because the past doesn't affect the future. It just doesn't. There's different circumstances, different people. It's not the same thing. So you don't want biases to make that decision for you, but they do. There's a new one. Have you heard of proximity bias? That's the new one. Because of all the remote workers, the workers closest to you tend to get promoted, tend to be seen as more favorable. And the remote workers that you don't lay eyes on as often tend to be seen less favorably. That employee that's always done magical, perfect work for you is seen with a halo bias. And you assume that everything they give you is perfect and you don't even look at it because they have that halo. There's a lot of biases. There's tremendous numbers, dozens of cognitive biases that allow us to say, I like that evidence because that supports what my gut tells me. I don't like that evidence. It doesn't support what my gut tells me, so I don't care for that evidence. And to discard that evidence would be critical, if not suicidal. So you really don't want to do it. So we need to check our biases and make sure they're out of the picture. And then finally, we have to filter our decision. At this point, you're probably saying to yourself, and trust me when I tell you, all of this is just, you're just talking a couple minutes. This doesn't take all week to make a decision. It might sound like it, but it really doesn't. You do this naturally very quick after you've been doing it for a while, but you have to filter your decision. You have to run it through some kind of cheesecloth that cuts out the big pieces and says, if there's a problem with this decision, with this alternative, I've got to get it out of the thinking. And I've got to make sure that the right alternative is the one I'm choosing. So you filter your preferred alternative, and you filter it through something that says it might be your core values. How many of you have a business with a set of core values? That's a great place to start. You could just run that decision through your core values and say, does it reconcile? Because core values are non-negotiable, correct? They are non-negotiable. We don't compromise our core values. So we can run that. Our core values might be our filter. For me, it's not. I have a filter. Mine is precedent, risks, implications, core values, collaboration, who needs to know, and safety. I run it through those PRICCKS, pricks. That's what it's called. Because if you can find a better acronym, you go ahead. Let me know. But those letters only make one word. So it's precedent, risks, implications, core values. Does it reconcile with my core values? Collaboration. Did I get all the right people involved in this conversation? Who might need to know about it? If I make the decision, who am I going to have to talk to right away? And does it compromise the safety of anybody in our company? So once I run that preferred alternative quickly through that decision filter, and that takes seconds because you do it all the time, and then you pretty much know this is the decision for me, and you get on with it, right? You go sit down by a creek and you think about it a little bit and you make your decision and you drive on. There's so much regarding successful decision making that really just scratches the surface, but it gives you a little sample of the thinking that really needs to go into it if you're going to make really wise and profitable decisions. But the bottom line is, if you have ample cash reserves and you make decisions in a rational manner, you can withstand the valleys. You can handle the COVIDs. You can deal with it. I heard a lot of you say you basically plowed through it like a snowplow. You didn't really let it slow you down. You just dealt with it, right? That's attitude. That's also cash reserve. And that's also very, very wise decision making. So when the spirits of most entrepreneurs are low, you can enjoy the contentment and good sleep that comes with cash and metacognitive thinking and profitable decision making. Now, you've heard about how I helped Dan to all these successes, and that was wonderful. My other clients did well as well. But here's the problem. Can you think about the problem? I'm not scalable. I'm not scalable. I'm old. I'm retired, but I'm not scalable. As a matter of fact, that's why I'm not scalable. So how do we translate what I did for Dan, provide that experience and knowledge from my career to the masses? How do we transfer that? Well, that's easy. SCORE believes that anybody can start a small business with the right support. They know the road is harder for some than others, and SCORE for All becomes that bridge. But if you're a small business owner, if you're a leader who had the courage to take that first step in business, and you really believe in what you're doing, if you have that passion for that happiness that you put in that cone, SCORE can help you get there. And that's a huge deal. So what's next? Recession. We are in technically a recession right now. We're back to 07, 08, and it has every bit of the possibility of being worse than 07, 08. So how do we prepare? How do we get ready for recession now? Because we tend to take that a little light because we just went through COVID and we feel like we gave it the office. And it's like, oh man, we're really going to do something newsworthy again. And the fact is, we already are. We're already doing it. So how do you check the boxes and be ready for this recession and deal with it and plow through it? Part of it's just that positive attitude. The same attitude we had about COVID here at Central Penn, the same attitude you had that made your business successful right through the COVID, and we celebrate you for that. But we also need cash reserves. So work with your financial advisor. You heard about your team, right? You need a coach. You need a financial advisor. You need a lawyer, a good lawyer, and you need that accountant, of course, the financial advisor. And you need these people on your team, your insurance agent and so forth. You need to work with them and let your SCORE advisor help you with the strategies necessary to make sure you have a cash reserve and help you learn to make great and profitable business decisions. Your decisions make you. So here's the good news. You made it. You're here. If you're here, you made it. You showed you could fight your way through the pandemic, and you will fight your way through this recession. You will. There's no question in my mind. I feel the spirit here today. Thank goodness, though, that you have a SCORE advisor, because if you think about it, when it comes down to making wise business decisions, having a SCORE advisor is one really smart decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. A great presentation. Metacognitive, we all learned that, right? Interesting. Failures, lack of cash reserve, and poor decision-making, but you can get better at decision-making with those spreadsheets and making better decisions with better data. And I love the biases. I teach that too in my class. I know we're running a little late. If you need to leave, sorry, we're running late. And now, last but not least, Andy Green will introduce his client, Maria Devers. Did I say it right? Deaver, sorry. She's the owner of Paget Cumberland. And
Thanks, John. I know if Maria remembers, but we met some number of years ago, pre-pandemic, since we relate everything to pandemic anymore. We met at a workshop over on the other side of the river. And Maria was at a stage where she was going through a change, in her career and her life, and wasn't sure where she was going to go. So, just, kind of like our roundtables, the workshop was that, hey, everybody contributes and we talk and throw ideas at one another and all those things. And one of the ideas that came out, was I said, all small businesses need bookkeepers, that they can rely on as part of their team, because they hate paperwork. I haven't met an entrepreneur yet who likes paperwork. They hate it, they ignore it, and then they get screwed up. So the workshop, broke up and everybody went their merry way. And then sometime later, I heard from Maria. She wanted to talk about starting the business. Well, as you'll hear when you talk to Maria, Maria is a very strong person. And when she makes up her mind about something, get out of her way. Because she's going to make it happen. And so, it started out, and just like everybody else, it's slow. Where do I find customers? Where do I do this? Where do I do that? And so, she's out there networking, meeting people left and right, very aggressively, going forward. So she started to build her bookkeeping business. Well, it wasn't too long later, I get a phone call. She says, I have an opportunity to buy an accounting firm. Whoa, this is a big jump from that workshop over across the river. And so we talked about it for a bit, and we got another one of our SCORE people involved who does a lot with buying and selling businesses. And I think Scott was your dad. I had a chance to talk with Maria. Anyway, she bought the business. Now has, I'm not going to steal her thunder, has more than one employee. I see her on the internet regularly, putting out her promotions. And with that, I'm going to let Maria tell you her story from her point of view.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Thanks for that introduction. I can't believe you talked me into doing this. So my name is Maria Deaver. I am the owner of Paget Cumberland, which is an accounting firm in Camp Hill. I provide bookkeeping services and payroll processing and tax preparation for over 100 small businesses and their owners. So just like Andy said, we met in 2018. I have 25 years of nonprofit business management experience, and the organization that I was working for went through a reorg, and it was time for me to go. So I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but I was working an enormous amount of hours and stressed and tired. And I was like, well, if I'm going to do all this, I'm just going to do this for me instead of for somebody else. So talked to my husband, took some time to decide what to do. I had one person that I was doing the side gig. She had rental properties and I was keeping her books. So I was like, I'm good at this. This is what I know. This is what I like. I like one-to-one relationships. So after going to the round table in Harrisburg at the Career Link, it was decided that, bookkeeping is what I know and bookkeeping is what I like, and small businesses are important to me. This is where I'm going to focus. So running a business, small business is not for the faint of heart. So keeping track of your financials usually falls at the bottom of the to-do list. And I wanted to help other small businesses like me be successful and pursue their dreams. And I wanted to be the right hand of my clients who really were good at their craft. I was good at mine. You should go do what you do. I'll do what I do best. But they didn't know how to do that. And I wanted to build relationships with people. So like Jeff said, from Centric, like we've all talked about, I wanted to be a part of that team. I want people to call me and ask for my opinion and ask for my advice and tell them what I know and listen to what they have to say and help build what it is that they do. So I wanted them to understand their financials so they can make better decisions, and if they were, how much money they were making, or even if they were making any money. There are lots of small businesses that don't even know if they're making money. They're just out there doing what they want to do, and at the end of the year, they're like, I didn't make any money. I just did this job and didn't earn anything. So as Andy was saying, I was out there. I had one client. When as Andy and I worked together, I was out there networking, and we talked about Facebook posts and doing some blogging and networking like crazy, which is totally out of my comfort zone. And I was partnering my services with an accounting firm. He just liked doing taxes and I liked doing bookkeeping. And so we were working our clients together. And that was in 2018, about 6 months after I had hung out my shingle. So I had just been my little sole proprietor for 6 months. I had 12 clients and I was making just a really decent living, working just the amount of hours that I wanted. And the guy that I was working with, we were in the car going to see a client, and he said, I think I want to do something else. How would you like to buy my business? And I was like, oh dear. So I went home and I talked to my husband and signed away my name on something that cost more than my house, and was scared and terrified and nervous. I had managed people, but never had employees that I was responsible for. And here I was taking on all of this. What my tenure plan was happening in year 2. So far, that was in 2019, January 1st was the first day of my operations. And since then I have increased the gross revenue by $100,000. We now have 100 payroll clients and do about 700 personal tax returns and 200 business returns. And I have 50 clients that I do monthly bookkeeping for. So, and it's not without, sitting with Andy and talking about marketing and talking about Facebook and talking about painting and just the things that you don't know. You don't know what you don't know when you're first starting out. You're just winging it. So, it has been an adventure, from learning how to give an elevator pitch to building a relationship with my clients. I want people to come into my office, not like they're going into their accounting office, like they're coming to a friend's place to talk about business. We laugh a lot. I have a full-time payroll person and 2 tax preparers and an office manager, and we are a family. And when people come in, they're excited to be there. And that's what I want. I want people to know that they can pick up the phone and call me and ask me questions and know that I care about them. I care about what happens to their business. And it's important for them to succeed. When they succeed, I succeed. And so I'm proud of what has happened. As Andy said, it never occurred to me that I couldn't do it. It was just happening a little faster than what I thought it was going to. So I appreciate that everything that SCORE has done. Experience that I needed when I was first starting out and being a sounding board as I have gone through this process. And I attribute much of my success to the program and to Andy, and I couldn't have done without you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. Appreciate it. Not for the faint of heart, huh? We all know that in small businesses, and you forget that small business is the heart of our economy. And during the pandemic, we saw a lot of struggles with small businesses, and a lot of them went out of business. And not only did the small business owners feel it, but their employees do. So, we appreciate when you jump in, all of you that have shared your success stories. And by the way, hats out for everyone that spoke, the clients. It's amazing what the small business community has undertaken and what they have done to survive. And I love it when you say relationships. It's still about relationships. I remember Joe through the Zoom box, right? I finally met Joe, right? First time. Yeah, there's nothing, Joseph and Jamal, there's nothing that replaces this. And we got to get back to that somehow. You can start doing some things over Zoom, but not all. But one thing that Maria brought into my head was thinking about her decision, and not for the faint of heart. I think the message that I would like all of you to leave here with is you're not alone. And if you have friends that are starting businesses, they're not alone, because that's what SCORE's for. That's what RKL's for. That's what Centric Bank is for. It's a team. It's relationships. You're not alone. And that's one thing that we try to keep reminding our clients. So I'd like to take a moment now, this is the fun part that I get to present the Volunteer of the Year Awards on behalf of our chapter. Our chapter covers 5 counties: Dauphin, Perry, Cumberland, Adams, and York. We administer this territory in the northern tier and southern tier, realizing there are regional differences. There are. It's just, that's the way it is. I know Lancaster, Lebanon, and Bob Booley is our SCORE. He's our regional director for our area. If you think about, York and Lancaster, it just seems like the Susquehanna River is the difference in the culture. For York and Harrisburg, it's I-83. I don't understand. Isn't the road supposed to bridge the divide? But it is just the way it is. And Sarah, if you don't know this already, Suzanne won this Volunteer of the Year award last week. And this year, he couldn't make it. This year, the Volunteer of the Year goes to Colton Wilkinson. Colton came up with a wealth of social media experience and is employed by WebFX. And he has volunteered his effort and expertise in helping us with our social media presence. Just like a business, a nonprofit is like a business. It's just that, and I tell everyone, remind our chapter is we're not a no profit or a minus profit business. We're a nonprofit. That means you don't make any profit, but you make your costs, right? And we share an interesting Good Mythical Morning on YouTube. I don't know if you're any good Rhett and Link fans out there, but that's a little relationship thing with Colton. So thank you for Colton. If you're on the WebEx, hopefully, congratulations, and your reward will be forthcoming. Yay! Colton, social media. Now I'd like to take the last bit of this and just hand off the torch. You know, I'm appreciative of Andy Green and what he did while I was chapter chair. He gave me new ideas, kind of like you, Maria, things to think about, things we implemented, things that I disagree with, but he probably still wanted to implement, and now he can. But I really respected his advice, his mentoring of me as the chapter chair, and he has agreed to take on the chapter chair role. So he is the incoming chapter chair, and I will turn over the closing to your new Susquehanna Square chapter chair.
Gotta clean up my mess, Andy.
This is a transition, and I'm not nearly as demonstrative as John. It must be his Italian that allows him to wave his arms and dance around and be entertaining at the same time. I'm much more low-key than John is. I want to say a parting remark, though, John. John builds bridges. He may not look like an engineer, but he's a bridge builder. 3 years ago, John accepted the challenge to bridge within SCORE. We were at 2 different chapters at one time. You know, the Harrisburg chapter and the York chapter. And there the twain shall meet. You know, do you think the Susquehanna is wide? The gap between York and Harrisburg is wider. So it was a problem. It was a challenge. You know, people before John attempted to bring that together, you know, and it was a struggle. But John he's persistent, as you can guess. He doesn't quit. He doesn't give up. You know, he moves forward. You know, he came up here. He spent time up here with us, you know, in the northern region. So bringing all these counties together, you know, he started to get results, started to get us to kind of mix a little bit going forward. So building not only that bridge, but at the same time, John was building bridges with partners, with other organizations who have missions like us. You know, whether down in York or up in Harrisburg, Cumberland County, wherever there was a potential place to reach out, John or had one of us reaching out to go and do that. The bridges are relationships, and I'm using the bridge as symbol. John builds relationships. You can tell he's a likable individual. He'll make us laugh, even with something as serious. He'll give a smile about it, deal with it. You know, that's his personality. You know, and I'm counting on John still being there for that as we move forward. You know, to once again, we talked about teams, and teams have to have all these different pieces that work. So, you know, going forward, we're going to count on continuing to build that. What's in our future? Got a whole list of things. You know, we are inheriting his mission to continue building and paving. Our key strength is one-on-one mentoring. That's what SCORE has always brought to the table. We bring experienced people, you know, who have made their own share of mistakes, have learned, developed over time, and are willing to share that, you know, with our clients. And, you know, whether we do workshops, we do one-on-one, we do roundtables, whatever we do. For us, and I think John mentioned earlier, it's fun. You know, we get a lot out of it. You know, we're alive, you know, because you challenge us. You make us think about new problems and new businesses. I know some, I never heard of the business, so it's kind of exciting. You know, we go into that going forward. But we plan to continue developing our workshops, our roundtables, and events. You know, education is a big part of what the small business community needs. We're going to expand our work in DEI. You know, Kat's agreed to take over team leadership. You know, and you could tell from the passion she showed this morning, you know, that she's ready to go. So it's a matter of, we're going to put a team together in DEI, develop a game plan for the coming year. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And we're going to recruit more people into that team to make that happen. We want to expand our partnerships with organizations having the same passion. We've got two folks here from Cumberland Library today, Lori and Judy. We've been working together since before the pandemic. The library has built a business center, in Frederickson. And they also have hybrid capability. So we're moving workshops to hybrid, both online and live, at the library. And, we've been talking about expanding it. They've got incredible capability that we can use in research, in market research. We had a demonstration, a week ago about some of those capabilities. It's like, Chuck and I were there. It's like, we need to bring that to the mentors and to the clients. It's free. It's sitting there. But we don't know how to use it necessarily. And that's what, Lori and Judy are going to help us do. So moving those partnerships. Perry County, we had started talking to before the pandemic, with George Shapak, and we had a couple online. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and just a whole lot of things kind of got put on that shelf, so to speak. But expanding those relationships with our current partners and new partners is exciting. We want to move into areas of our communities that have been underserved. For example, Gettysburg, Hanover, up in Perry County. And we want to make it, make the businesses there get able to use the resources that we have. So we're looking, we're looking for mentors in those areas and ways of doing that. We talk about the negativity of COVID. The one positive is Zoom. Before, if we had a workshop, really only the people nearby could go to the workshop. Now it doesn't matter where they are. I mean, they could be around the world someplace, and they could be around the world someplace, and they could still go to. I think as SCORE, we're looking at what's called One SCORE, where the whole country is pulling together in the SCORE organization and making their resources and expertise available to everybody else. We're coming up with ways to share workshops across chapters. It's brand new. We're just starting it, with our Professional Women's Network, working with Lancaster, as step one, but it's opening the doors to do that in so many other areas. So we plan to expand on that. It's taking over from John's place. I view my number one job is taking care of the mentors. As a leader, I mean, they're our service. That's our product, is having those for you out there. Whether it's additional training, whatever it may be. I want them all to learn how to use a library and do that research. It's amazing, some of the tools that are out there. Even SCORE's got tools that, we haven't put together great training programs yet to where all our mentors even know where some of them are. So I view that as a responsibility moving forward. We're incredibly excited, and I wish I could radiate the amount of passion that Kat did when she gave her talk. It was, I could feel the vibrations coming through as we did that, and listening to John, and John's like that every meeting that we have. So you can imagine, they always run long. Sorry, for some reason, I don't know what it is. But the one thing that I do know is John will never stop building bridges. It's in his nature. I don't care whether it's with SCORE, the teaching that he does, the consulting that he does, other volunteer work that he does. He's nonstop going forward. So, one of the things that we thought of for John is, how can we help John continue his work? So we got John like a little box of rivets.
Oh.
For helping to put bridges together.
That? Oh, thank you so much. That was
You're
really
welcome.
nice. God knows I walked enough last week.
I want to thank everybody for coming today, for participating, for speaking. I'm hoping you all got a chance to, meet other people while you're here. Maybe you're here. Maybe share some mentor stories as well as. No, thank you so much. You know, we did this last week and this week, and both of them were incredible. Our keynote speaker, I had personally a lot of takeaways, not that everybody in this room does. You know, in terms of cash reserves, in terms of the quality of decision making. They're all things that will help us do an even better job. So with that, I guess it's time to get back to work.
Thank you.
Thank you.